This is my intro music. Welcome to the video. I hope you like it lots, so don't forget to subscribe and click the thumbs up button. Now let's react.
Hey, hi, hello there, and welcome to another episode of An Anthropologist Talks About Amberlin Reed. And this whole thing that's been going on with Amberlin Reed and her exes. Specifically, her exes Casey and Beck. And there's a lot going on. There's a lot of other people covering this. I've not been in the middle of it, specifically because I'm not actually here for the he said she said stuff, which if you are here for it, and I'm not saying don't be here for it. I think the first episode of Lukewarm Tea with Nerfy, Jade, and Casey, they interviewed Beck. That was for the first episode, but it is Nerfy, Jade, and Casey's podcast, the three of them together. I think that's a really good episode. I know they said that they would be interviewing Beck on more than one occasion. Beck's been coming out of their shell lately. They've been doing a lot of interviews. They've been answering a lot of questions. I know they've got a two-part Q&A, three-part Q&A with Mr. Snowflake. I think they've done a Q&A with Karina, at least one or two with Karina now. I know they've got a bunch of stuff on their own channel where they just kind of talk about their experience while dating Amber. And this, of course, has all greatly upset Amberlin. Because, you guys, she is a victim, you guys. She is the greatest victim that ever victimed. Oh, she is a victim. Oh, the victimness. And whatever. Oh, Science and Sarcasm is still around. Oh, no, never mind. But anyway, I don't really care about the nitty gritty. If you guys care, by all means, Salty Crab's doing a really great job covering all of that. Start at the source, start with Beck, start with Lukewarm Tea, episode 1. Start with Mr. Snowflake's interviews, start with Karina's interviews, branch out from there. Everybody's got their own commentary going on. Everybody's got their best moments going on. So there's just a lot of material that you could be watching. My thing that I want to talk about the most is more Amber's response to everything. And that's specifically because the way Amber chose to respond to all of this really says a lot. Also, I am way behind on Amber's normal, usual content. And, it's a goal of the channel when I started it to cover every video that she puts out. And I think with being behind from the COVID stuff that she went through, the CVID, if you will, I may have to break my rules. And I really was hoping to not have to do this again because I had to break them last year too. But in order to get caught up with everything because of this whole kerfluffle here, I may have to skip the COVID arc. And I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal because I don't know if you know, but Amber got COVID. And there you go. There's the story arc right there. So I think we can safely jump through that hoop. And I do have a video coming out where we're going to be covering, I think, the last 2 videos she put out before her underwear video. And I've been doing a couple videos per episode of this, and it seems to be catching us up nicely or keeping us caught up nicely. But I do want to address, because I think it was Alex as Shook pointed out, though, there's 2 timelines going on right now in the Amberverse, and one of them is Amber's video timeline, which is Amber's behind by like 2 weeks to a month with her videos. And then there's the live timeline, because Amber has started doing member lives. And she does them every Tuesday. And she's been, we're on live number 6, 5 or 6, something like that. Going on 6 or 7. And so she's been sticking with them for a little bit here. And as a response to Beck's videos, and this interview in particular, Amber decided to do a public live where she decided that she was going to publicly address her side of the relationship story with her and Beck. because apparently Amber has not been able to tell her side of the story ever. No one has ever seen Amber's side of the story with her relationship with her and Beck. So, one of the things I want to talk about does contain some of the live material, and because it's the live material, and because Amber's an idiot, and I just don't want to deal with her idiotness, we're not going to show material directly from her live because it's pointless. But she also goes over it in her public live, so we don't have to worry about it that much. But let me get that pulled up real fast. All right, as you can see, I am a member. What is it? I'm not only the owner, I'm a member. What is that? The old hair club for men commercial? Anyway, how old am I? So, it's in We Need to Talk, Kissy Face, Stream Queens, number 6. I'm not gonna lie, Stream Queens is actually a pretty fun title. I'm kind of angry Amber's got it. I feel like it should be like a horror show. Some female-led horror talk show. Damn it. But anyway, it's Amber's instead. But in this one, in Stream Queens number 6, she starts off telling us all that she has unblocked everyone who she's ever blocked in her 11 years of being on YouTube, which I don't know if that was true or not. I've never been blocked, so I don't know. I posted a banana and it went through. I was fine. There you go. But the reason she said that she did it was so that she could get the advice from her membership over what she should do about a situation that she's been thinking about. And it was a stupid situation. And the advice that she wanted from her membership, again, we are not your friends, we are not your doctors, we are not your therapists. But anyway, she asks her membership if she should do a live where she publicly addresses the lies that Beck was telling in their videos, where they were addressing their relationship with Amber. And I mean, of course, there were people on both sides, and I would say a healthy third to a half of Amber's paying membership is probably people who she would classify as being haters. At least a healthy eighth of us are reaction channels, because I know that I'm a member, Salty Crab's a member, I think Alex's Shook is a member, I think Snowflake's a member. I mean, most of the big reaction and the little ones are all members, right? Because we want access to the sweet behind the scenes stuff, you know, right? For what it's worth. And so her membership, what she was trying for with her membership was she was trying to create a hug box, and, you know, whatever. She wanted to build a community that was positive, and this was a safe community, and people could get together with her in the evenings, and they could just basically just hang out together. There's no structure to these there's no structure to her members' chats. She basically just sits there in front of the camera and kind of stares at the screen until someone says something she feels like responding to, and that's it. There's really nothing to it. I mean, at least she's not eating on camera, so, you know, small favors. She doesn't do anything particularly raunchy. She answers questions sometimes that are questionable value, or, you know, I don't think she's gotten too personal yet, but she's been known to do that in the past. Anyway, my point is, there's no real structure to it. She doesn't really share much with us, but she decided on the Stream Queen from 5 days ago, which would be number 6 here, that she needed our advice. And of course, as soon as she drops the bomb on us that she's thinking about doing this, the thing is Amber wasn't really looking for advice. She already knew she was going to do some kind of rebuttal to Beck's questions, right? Beck's Q&As. She just wanted to know what the reaction was going to be. And this was her testing the waters. And she was just kind of like dipping her little finger and just testing the waters to see if it was warm or not, right? because this is all Amber's got right now. You know, she doesn't really have anything going on. She doesn't really do anything interesting. There's no story arc going on right now. You know, she doesn't have a girlfriend. She doesn't have anything to keep herself occupied. So she doesn't really have anything to keep us occupied. And everybody's really focused on Beck and Beck's sharing of their story right now. And again, I keep pointing out there's not really anything Beck is telling us that we didn't already know or we didn't already assume. It's just kind of giving Beck a platform to kind of like share and get it off their chest and get it out there into the public eye. Because again, Amber's had, well, the entire relationship that the two of them were together, Amber had the platform, the YouTube platform, to share her side of it, right? Because Amber had control of the camera, she had control of the editing, she had control of what got posted and what didn't get posted, right? So Amber had control of that side of our view of the relationship. We didn't know, you know, Beck's side of it until Beck came out and told us about it, right? So that's the other side of it. Like, Amber doesn't really need to tell us her side of it. We already know her side of it. So there's that. But yeah, Beck's kind of having a moment right now where they're being able to share their story, and they're just kind of rebuilding and relaunching their YouTube presence, and I don't have a problem with it. I really don't. But again, we're not really learning anything new. I will say the inheritance thing, that was a bit of a punch in the gut, and we will get back to the inheritance talk. So, but since we're roughly about 10 minutes into this video, yeah, this is just going to be kind of a overview kind of chatting video where we're going to talk about this kind of stuff. So if you're waiting for video, might not be the video for you. Mainly because this is a members video. And again, I don't want to put up with Amber's shit. And then the next one we're going to talk about is the members live. And we're basically just going to kind of skim over sections of the members live. So part of her Stream Queens number 6, where she's kind of testing the waters and basically telling us that she's going to do this live where she's going to share her side of the story because she's been silenced all this time, you guys. And she's been protecting Beck by not sharing her side of the story. And, oh, the things she could tell us about Beck. And of course, every time she does that, people are like what? Like what? Like what? And she's like, oh, I don't want to talk about it on this stream because I don't want to talk about it twice. And it's basically, she doesn't want to talk about it on the members live because she hadn't made it up yet, is basically what that boiled down to. She hadn't made the story up yet. She wanted to see if people were hungry to hear her side of the story. And of course we are. We want to hear the trash. We want to hear whatever mental gymnastics she's doing to make herself not the victim. And I've been saying that. I wanted her, I don't think there's any value in her doing this, like rebutting Beck's points bit by bit, because no one's going to believe her anyway. And most people in their chat told her that. They're like, no one's going to believe you. There's no point in you doing this, yada, yada, yada. And she was like, well, I've been silenced and it'll make me feel better. And I'm the victim here. And then people are like, yeah, whatever. I just wanted to hear what her mental gymnastics were going to be to remove the blame from herself for her past behavior and for all of that. And she also was saying that, like, this was her way of taking accountability for her behavior. So the thing with the accountability, I don't think she knows what that means. I don't honestly think she understands what accountability actually looks like. So I think that's part of the problem here. Is I think she thinks by just saying the word accountability, I think she thinks that's the only thing she has to do to take accountability. I don't think she understands that taking accountability has a series of steps, and that it's not just her saying it. She has to do things in order to take accountability. And she, like everything else in her life, doesn't do that, right? She just says, I'm going to take accountability, and then nothing happens. Like anything else. I'm going to start Weight Watchers, and then nothing happens. I'm going to weigh myself in every day for 100 days, and we get maybe 3 days of it, and then nothing ever happens, right? That's her MO. And so people keep asking her, what examples do you have? There's this whole movement in her chat right now to get her to give Beck back their money And first off, that's not going to happen. And I think everybody knows that. I think mostly this is just people, A, expressing their dissatisfaction with it, and B, trolling her, which, you know, is fine. She's going to ignore that, by the way, which is, and and the reason why she's going to ignore that actually comes out fairly later on in the chat, or fairly later on in the live, because she starts, the chat has finally worn her down enough that they're like, well, at least tell us about the inheritance money. And she's like, oh, fine. We can go over the inheritance money. And so the story she starts to tell during the inheritance money story, the actual, like, the actual words that she uses for the story are actually fairly interesting, because she starts off saying that she and Beck had a joint account during the relationship. And she's correct, they did. As I recall, now, I started watching during the Beck era, so while they were together. I wasn't there for the start of the relationship, but I have watched retro reacts to it, and I have watched retro reacts to the Destiny era, and I have heard stories from the Casey era. Yeah. And I don't recall if this happened during Wifey era. But I know one of the very first things Amber did when she moved in with Destiny was immediately had Destiny put Amber on Destiny's bank account, right? She made Destiny make her bank account a joint account and had Amber put on the account. And I seem to recall something similar occurring with her and Casey. And I recall that this also happened when she and Beck moved in. Was Amber insisted that she was put on Beck's bank account and that became a joint account. The important part here is that, and Amber has admitted it during this live, that bank account was originally Beck's private account, and Amber had it turned into their joint account. So effectively, Amber hijacked Beck's account. Amber doesn't seem to see anything weird about this. I do. Maybe I'm weird. Especially seeing how that is a modus operandi for her in her relationships, especially in the relationships where the three partners that I'm talking about have all come forward and have very, very similar stories of mistreatment at the hands of Miss Lynn, right? So as the story continues on, Amber says we had a joint account. We both had a card with our name on it. Beck could have spent the money anytime they wanted, any way they wanted. I wouldn't have said anything about it. This is counter to Beck's account that if Beck were to spend money, they had to provide receipts afterwards. And I think they said they had to ask permission beforehand. And it wasn't a freedom of money thing. It was very much a financial control thing. And I have always said Amber controls people with money and with gifting. And Amber herself has admitted that maybe she uses money and gifting as a form of control. And that's been a very quick throwaway comment that she has made recently, actually, in one of her videos in the past. I want to say 2 months. I can't remember exactly when, but it was a real quick throwaway comment where she was talking about how she likes to give people gifts, right? And she was like, maybe I do try to buy people's love. And that was a real quick throwaway comment. So even she admits that her gift giving and her financial support is kind of motivated, right? It's not a, oh, you need something, here, let me help you. It's a, oh, you need something kind of a thing. So she's aware of her behavior, I guess is where I'm trying to go with that. And Amber is trying to, do keep in mind, this is one of those he said, she said kind of situations. we were never there. We don't have concrete proof one way or the other. We as an audience are choosing to believe one person over the other. We may have our reasons for believing one person over the other, and that's perfectly valid. Since we're basing opinion on non-factual, none of this is fact, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We can't prove any of this is fact. We can't prove Beck is telling the truth. We can't prove Amber is telling the truth. We can deduce that Beck is telling the truth because we have at least 2, possibly 3 other past relationships of Amber's where there is very similar stories, not just about the finances, but other experiences that Beck goes over that are damn near identical. So there's a good reason there to believe that Beck might be onto something versus Amber, who does have a history of not being truthful or withholding truth or just flat out lying to our faces, kind of a thing. So, why we believe one person over the other, we as an audience have our reasons for it. But again, we could be very wrong. I just want people to keep that in mind. All right. Now, going forward, putting that aside, where was I? Oh, Amber immediately tries to kind of push everything Beck has been saying to the side. Doesn't really address the receipts thing, doesn't really address the Beck having to ask permission. She just kind of hand waves it away and is like, if Beck wanted to buy something at any point, Beck could have just bought it. That was their money. That's how Amber viewed it. That was their money. And I'm like, Beck had money in that account before they put your name on it. So did you immediately start assuming that the money that was in Beck's account was your money as well the minute your name was on that joint account? Because that wasn't your money. You didn't have anything to do with that money. I mean, let's pretend like there was even like just $10 in that account. That wasn't your $10, kind of a thing. This is why joint accounts get a little murky. So anyway, that one just always kind of, that's how she gets you, though. That's how she gets them. She grabs them by the financial balls, man. That's how she gets them. But then, that's where she starts depositing her YouTube money, right? And though she says, oh, this is our money, I view this as our money, in the exact same story she continues to tell, she talks about several different occasions where I think she thought she was showing how she was so generous and how this was her spending her money in a generous way towards Beck. And by the time she gets done with this story, it becomes very clear that these were actually ways of her justifying how that money that was deposited into the account from Beck's inheritance, how she actually viewed that was her money because Beck owed it to her. And it starts off with about the bed and how Beck had insisted that they get that $6,000 bed, or that ridiculously expensive bed, and how they never slept in it. Either of them never slept in it, and yada, yada, yada. I don't know if people remember the bed thing. It was a whole kerfluffle. And Amber insists that she eventually had to sell the bed, and she was only able to sell it for like $1,000. So there was like a whole loss. There was like a $5,000 loss or whatever the bed was worth, right? And that was kind of implying that, the money that was given to Beck as inheritance was making up for the loss of that bed that Amber paid for with Amber's YouTube money, their money. And then there was another story that Amber told about how they had all gone on vacation to a cabin of some variety. And Amber says, and I paid for it with my YouTube money. Well, then it's not the collective your money, then, is it? It's Amber's YouTube money, not Beck and Amber's money, because you're making a very big distinction here, even though the money is going into your collective, your joint account, right? So whose money is it, Amber? because you're being very specific at this point. And Beck got asked about that, and I think Beck was reacting to this in another reaction somewhere else. And Beck said something effective like they didn't exactly remember this event. And Beck has admitted that there are holes in Beck's recollection of events during this time because Beck was not medicated correctly. They were trying to get medicated correctly, and they were going through some very rough patches in their life. And they were actually disassociating. Real disassociation. Amber. Anyway. So Beck does have some holes in their memory, so Beck was asking their siblings about it, and apparently there was a joint purchase of this cabin or something like that, but the financial responsibility for this event did not fall squarely on Amber's shoulders the way Amber was trying to make it sound. So either way, there was no reason for Amber to do that whole my YouTube money paid for this vacation that we all went on. But by the time she gets done telling the story about the bed and then the vacation, I feel like there was like a third story in there somewhere. It becomes very clear by the end of that these weren't really stories showing how Amber freely spent her money on Beck during the relationship. Anyway, before I got distracted, the stories basically just show how Amber just was trying to show everyone how she was owed that money, the inheritance money, and how she was just very firm in her belief that Beck really did owe her that money as repayment for the money that she had spent on Beck over the years while they were together. Even though Amber says, oh no, yada yada, that was our money, and if Beck wanted to spend it, Beck could have done it, blah, 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 blah. It was very evident by the end of that whole justification of why Amber kept the inheritance money that Amber really did feel like she was owed that money by Beck. And it just, the fact that Amber clearly did not view anything that Beck did during their relationship as having any kind of value. Keeping in mind that Amber admits in the public live now that Beck was helping her with her personal hygiene in the bathroom for somewhere between 2 weeks to 9 months. I don't know. That one was kind of up in the air. But either way, I think 2 weeks of helping you wipe your butt after you go to the bathroom is probably worth $5,000, I would think. I don't know. I don't know how much homemaids get paid, but I hope it's a lot. So that kind of a thing. And, and Beck just kind of like, well, they were together like 5, almost 6 years, something like that. And Beck kind of said during their interview with the Lukewarm Tea that it wasn't that long into their relationship that Beck just kind of felt like they were just their caretaker. They were just Amber's caretaker. They were there to run errands. They were there to make food. They were there to help with physical needs. They were there to help with showering and all of that kind of stuff. And it wasn't a relationship, and it wasn't a like a mutual give and take sort of relationship. And it's very clear that Amber didn't value any of the labor that Beck put into it. And it always kind of blows me away. And it's not just with Amber. It's when I watch these like 600-pound life videos. Because again, I watch Shaun of Steel a lot. And it always blows me away with these people who are like, they're completely bedbound, or they're mostly bedbound, and they require someone to help them with their basic everyday requirements. They can't go to the bathroom on their own. They can't dress themselves. They can't clean themselves. They can't get their own food, right? And yet they're like pushing 700 pounds and this kind of shit. But they are so rude, and they are so mean, and they are so entitled to the people who are trying to take care of them. And Amber is exactly like these people. She is so rude, and she is so entitled, and she just treats the people around her like they should be happy to be allowed to be in the same room as her. Like it is a benefit of their lives to be able to breathe the same air as her for any length of time, right? And think of how the times that she's been like low key sniping at her mom, and her mom usually throws shade back. Like her mom doesn't typically put up with Amber's crap too much, but I mean, she's obviously put a dent in her mom. I mean, nobody drives somebody 12 hours to another state for 3 months, just that kind of crap. But it's like, it's that kind of thing. I think the way she treated Beck the entire time they were together, and who knows how she was treating Wifey. She didn't really share too much of their relationship on camera, and part of that I think was Wifey did ask her not to do that, and for whatever reason Amber chose to respect that. And I think the other part of that is Wifey pretty much told her not to do it and had some way of keeping Amber from doing it. So it's just like, but it's just the way she treats and talks about and speaks about people in her life, especially during her admitted bedbound era, where she was reliant on Beck to, handle her basic needs. And it's never, oh, thanks for doing this for me, or if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have been able to pull myself out of this, or I wouldn't have been able to get better. I mean, she even goes as far and has gone as far in the past as to blame Beck for not getting diagnosed with her cancer sooner. I mean, all but blaming Beck for having the cancer in the first place. Like, it's like, really? You really want to go there? But that's just how ungrateful she is. And then we get to the actual public live, which is probably one of the worst lives I've ever seen Amber do. And it just kind of, it's not that it like spiraled out of control. It's like it was never under control to begin with. I don't know what she thought was going to happen when she did it. It's not like she went into like a foodie booty rage or anything like that. It was just not good. It wasn't good PR. It wasn't a good look. It's going to haunt her for the rest of her YouTube career. It's another one of those situations where I don't see her. It's going to be mined for years. People are going to be bringing things up from this live for years to come. It's not going to be something she's going to be able to bury and walk away from as much as she would like to. So, and again, she starts this off with, I don't want this to be a Beck bashing session. She wanted it to be taking accountability, and she wanted to be able to speak her truth and, her side of the story. And it basically turned into Amber trying to play a giant Uno reverse card, or if there was an Uno gaslight card, she was trying to play that card. Basically everything Beck said in any interview or any Q&A, Amber was like, no, you. Nuh-uh, that was you. You did that. You said that. You were like that. I mean, it was just that, just in completely reverse. At one time, she was like, well, Beck was mean to me once. And it was like, uh-huh. I bet Beck was. I bet you two had some nasty fights. I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think Beck's a saint at all. And I think one of the reasons why I'm more likely to give Beck grace than I am ever to give Amber grace is because, Beck owns this, right? Beck's like, I'm not a saint. I've done things wrong. I've done things I'm not proud of, And Amber says, Beck was mean to me during our relationship. Yeah, I bet she was, or I bet they were. I bet you backed them into a corner more than once. The whole binge monster shit. I bet you pulled that on Beck more than one time, and Beck probably snapped at you. Everybody's got their breaking point, right? I'm not justifying it. Well, I guess I kind of am. But, like, it's that kind of shit. So, yeah, I bet Beck said nasty shit to you because I know you said nasty shit to Beck. I watched you do it. Right? I watched you call Beck fat. I watched you call Beck unattractive. I watched you criticize everything Beck wore and everything Beck liked and Beck's everyday look and just everything about Beck. I listened to you make fun of Beck's accent and Beck's family and, every interest that Beck has ever had. I heard you make fun of it. And then later on in life, you're like, oh yeah, I'm such a gamer girl. No, you're not. You don't know shit about gaming. You never did. Oh, I love horror movies. Since when? Since when did you like horror movies? Anyway, it's that kind of stuff. I think one of my favorite moments from the Lukewarm Tea podcast was, I forget which host it was, asked both Casey and Beck if there had ever been a time where Amber had pulled one of her, oh, I can't help you out because of my myriad of problems and they're flaring up and I just can't help you do something right now, and then was perfectly fine the minute whatever the task was done. And Beck was like, yeah. You could tell Beck was like still upset about this moment too. Like indignantly upset about this moment. And Beck was like, yeah, there was this one time and I had to bring groceries in from the car and I asked her if she could come out and help me. And she told me that she couldn't come help me because there was a ghost in the hallway. Just like, well, that's stupid. So yeah, that sounds like her. And Beck goes, and she didn't even believe in ghosts. I was just like, that's right. But the mist gives you COVID. Just, putting that out there. And I just thought that was kind of funny. That was like one of my, I think that's like my highlighted moment out of the whole interview. There was a lot of good stuff that came out of the interview, but that I think is my top moment. But you could just hear that like Beck was still indignant about that moment. She doesn't even believe in ghosts. You get her. Because any other time you hear Beck talk about any time now that you hear Beck talk about their relationship with Amber, you can hear frustration, you can hear irritation, you'll hear just, that like, that happened. You can hear the eye roll. You don't hear anger, you don't hear rage, you might hear sadness, but it's not like misery, right? You can hear that Beck has processed a lot of this and is able to talk about it now in a way that they've separated themselves from the incident, which, is how you talk about, is how someone who's gone through therapy talks. Amber, just, FYI. Just letting you know. So it's clear to me that Beck has, if not gone to therapy, they've at least done some work on their own to try and get through this, right? And they've definitely gotten to a place where they can talk about that relationship, not necessarily in a positive way, but in a way where it's not like re-traumatizing them, right? Which is the goal. That is always the goal, to be able to talk about things that trigger you and traumatize you in a way that is no longer triggering and traumatizing you, right? If you can't talk about something without it still bothering you, you still need to work on it, right? Unfortunately, nobody can fix you but you. Anyway, Amber. Anyway. Amber. But yeah, so where was I going with this before I got way off topic? I think I was just talking about how like Amber was just basically trying to reverse everything that Beck had talked about Amber doing to them during the relationship and just made it sound like Beck had done it to them. Yeah, being mean to her during arguments and things like that. Who knows? Amber probably thought it was mean that she asked Beck to go get her ice cream at 4 a.m. and Beck was like, no, I'm trying to sleep. And everyone was like, oh my God, they wouldn't get me ice cream at 4 a.m. And it's like, yeah, no one in their right mind does. That's what Uber's for. Call DoorDash. Somebody will bring you ice cream at 4 a.m. if you pay them enough. That's what the DoorDash people do. Anyway, shouldn't give her ideas. But that basically was the public live in a nutshell. People were asking her questions. She was kind of sort of not addressing any of it. I think at one point people were constantly asking if the pets were chipped. I think at some point she pops off with, yes, the pets are chipped, but there's never been any. I think she just said it to get people to shut up. So I'm sure there's going to be people being like, show us the evidence the pets were chipped. I don't know how you're going to do that. feel like there might be some paperwork at the vet that you can show, but other than that, I don't know what you could show to prove the pets are chipped, but she should probably figure that out because I sure as don't believe that they are. Anyway. So, yeah, but it's just that kind of crap. I know somebody got on there and was saying something about her cancer again, and that set her off. I personally need people to quit doing that shit, but that's a me problem, not a... She also probably wants people to quit doing that, I'm sure. But again, people are going to do that because there are people who are going to continue to believe that she never had cancer for whatever reason. And that's pretty much the only like big bone I had to pick on that one. Otherwise, honestly, it was just really sitting there watching her not answer questions, try to twist everything around to make it sound like either Beck was the one that had actually done whatever it was that Amber was being accused of, or that Beck had also done whatever it was Amber was being accused of, but Beck's was worse, which those two tactics alone are they're control tactics, and they're tactics of, well, I hate to say narcissism because there's like too many people who are like, Amber's a narcissist, and it's like, we can't diagnose her, but they are argument tactics of people who tend to have narcissistic traits. As I've been told by my psychiatrist, I am not a narcissist. But as I've been told. So those are two different argument tactics, but they're also like, more importantly, they're tactics of manipulators. They're ways of trying to control not only the audience, but the individual. Like when you start arguing with somebody who's trying to control you, the first tactic they do is to try to be like, oh, that's not what I meant to do. I'm sorry that you're upset, but that's not what I meant to do. That's not where I'm coming from. You're just you're just reading it wrong. You're overreacting to the situation. And when that doesn't work, it turns around into, well, okay, maybe I did do it, but you did it too. And when you did it, it made me feel like yada, 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 yada. And why are you mad at me? Because you do it all the time as well. And blah, 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 blah. And I mean, when people do that to me, I was like, I don't like that at all. Anyway, but that's like a major tactic in arguing that manipulators will use, is if they can't gaslight you out of it, or if they can't like pity you out of it. Oh, you think about how you're making me feel. If they can't do one of those two things, then they'll go on the attack, and it's, yeah, I might do it, but you do it worse than me. You know, you're a worse person than I am. And it might work face to face, one-on-one, or even in like a one-on-two situation. But when you're fighting with the whole internet, it doesn't really work, because the whole internet is not one person. And I know Amber does tend to treat the internet as if it is like one amorphous blob, as if it is one entity, but it is made up of multitudes, and that's where it messes up for her. Like I'm convinced Amber is a very good manipulator when she's one-on-one, face-to-face with people, because I don't understand. There's no way she could function otherwise. Right? There's no way she could get girlfriends. There's no way she could continue to have people in her life if she wasn't good at this face-to-face, right? But when she tries to use the same tactics on something like everyone on the internet, it doesn't work, because she treats the internet like it's an individual, but obviously we're not, you know. Not everybody on here is going to agree with what I'm saying during this video, right? And I'm not going to agree with all of the other reactors, right? There's going to be somebody out there that I'm going to disagree with, right? Or I'll agree with 90% of your points and disagree with 10%, right? Because we are individuals, right? And that is the problem. Amber's manipulation might work on, I don't know, random numbers. Amber's manipulation might work on 1/4 of the viewing population, and, you know, the rest of us are going to not fall for it. Or maybe it's going to like completely work on 1/4 of the population, and then what, I don't know. I'm going to screw up my fractions here. 2/4 of the remaining population is going to kind of maybe think that maybe she's onto something and be like, And then that remaining fourth is going to be like, no, it's wrong. You know, maybe that's how it's going to work. But either way, that's not the reaction she's looking for, right? So, anyway, have I completely butchered? Look, I don't do math, all right? Somewhere in there, there's a whole pie. Anyway. So that was pretty much it in a nutshell. Like I said, there are people who did. If you want to watch people who are going to sit there and go over every single moment during the lives and crack jokes and make comments and tell you how horrible Amber is and how awful what she said is and how heartbreaking it is to hear Beck say certain things and recount certain stories, those are all true. The stories that both Casey and Beck share on the Lukewarm Tea podcast were heartbreaking to hear. Some of them were just straight up shocking. I mean, yeah, okay, some of them were just straight up shocking, and some of them are just like, all right, that came out of left field. Some of them were pretty funny. There were some pretty funny moments there. It was very interesting to hear the overlap in treatment when it came to Casey and to Beck. I think the biggest difference, and I think Beck brought this up, between the two relationships was that when Casey and Amber were together, Casey was, I'm going to get my numbers wrong. I think Casey was like 15 or 16 and Amber was 18 or 19, or maybe that was the spread. Maybe they got together when Casey was 15 and Amber was 18. And then they were together until Amber was 19 and Casey was 16 or 17. I think I got my names wrong there. Anyway, my point is, Casey was in the realm of minor the entire time, and Amber was not. So, now, again, there's these things called Romeo and Juliet laws. I don't know if those would apply in the states that they were in. And I'm not trying to throw shade. Where the hell was Casey's mom? Kind of a thing, because Casey's mom is the one that let Amber live with them. But again, you know, I say that, and then I also need to throw in, this is Amber's MO. Amber moved in on Casey and Casey's mom pretty damn fast. Amber came to visit one weekend and then told the two of them that she had been thrown out of her house, that was the weekend that her aunt and her grandmother both told her that she couldn't come back to Oklahoma, that she had been thrown out and she wasn't allowed back because basically Amber had been jeopardizing her mom's sobriety. And so the other members of Amber's family were basically like, nah, you can't come back because your mom's sobriety is more important to us. So who knows what the whole story is there? We know Casey's side of the story because Casey has told us. We don't know the whole side from Amber. We know Amber's side, but can we trust it? We don't know what was going through the aunt and the grandmother and the mom's side because they've never shared, right? So we don't really know exactly what was going on there. Maybe Amber left knowing full damn well she couldn't go back to begin with, right? Maybe that was her whole thing. Like, she left knowing she couldn't go back, kind of a thing. That's just me speculating, though. I don't know. So it's that kind of a thing. Like, that's how Amber works. She moves in real fast. She plays the pity card real hard. And again, Amber was still a teenager. I mean, legally she's an adult, but she was still in her teens. So probably Casey's mom just saw another kid and was like, let me take care of this kid who no one else wants to take care of, because Amber had aged out of the system at that point. So there you have that. I don't know. That whole situation is just effed up. And again, it just kind of shows, like, you don't have to work hard to prove to me that Amber had a rough childhood and that Amber came from rough circumstances. But you also cannot convince me that Amber isn't a master manipulator either. And that Amber has used for a very long time the young, helpless individual, young, helpless girl persona to help her coast through life, right? Oh, woe is me. I'm a young, innocent little girl that just got thrown out of my mom's house. Oh, she's so mean to me. Where will I stay? Can you let me sleep on your couch? Kind of a thing. I know a lot of you are like, oh my God, ugh. But in the moment, You don't know how you're going to react. Well, maybe you do, but I don't know. So that kind of a situation, I'm just kind of rambling at this point. But so anyway, the major difference, and again, Beck pointed this out, between the two relationships was that during Casey and Amber's relationship, Casey was legally a child. And was emotionally a child. I mean, you're what, 15 to 16 to 17? I'm sorry, you're a child. And when Beck and Amber got together, they were what, late 20s going into their 30s. Like, I guess my point is when Amber and Beck were and this was Beck's point as well, when Amber and Beck were together, they were both adults and had been adults for a while. When Amber and Casey had gotten together, Amber was Casey's first relationship ever, and I don't know if Casey was Amber's, but I don't think so. Just from the way it sounds, it doesn't sound like she was. So Casey was we're all idiots in our first relationship, let's be honest. None of us came out of our first relationship unscathed. And that's the unfortunate part about that. So it's just even more unfortunate that Casey's first relationship had to be with somebody like Amber, right? All right. So that's enough of that. Again, I will say, if you want to listen to somebody who's just wanting to tear into every single moment of the lives and, you know, give you a play-by-play and, I don't know, do replays of it and that kind of stuff, check out Salty Crab. I enjoyed theirs. Check out Mr. Snowflakes. His has been fairly entertaining. Who else have I been watching? Alex's Shook was pretty good. Who else did I watch? Or go to the source and just watch Lukewarm Tea for You. I'll put the link to the podcast in the description down below. But I will be referring back to these things because these are pretty major events in the whole Amberverse thing. I personally don't want to sit here and go rehash over every single moment of it. We can talk about it down in the comments section. If there's one incident in particular you want me to talk about, I'm more than happy to do so. If you're in the members' lives and there's something from the members' lives you want me to talk about, again, I'm more than happy to do so. I just won't play the video format because, again, I just don't want to fuck with Amber and her shit. I probably won't have to even worry about it. I just don't even want to bother with it. But anyway, I will talk about it. We can talk all damn day. So there's that. But it's also just not what we do here. So, and as far as reacting, that's a 2 hour. I think that, how long is that live? Let me go look real fast. Oh, it's only a 3-hour live. You really want me to react to that effort? I don't know. Maybe I will for my own live. I'll do this, damn well knowing the outcome. I will put a question up in my community section asking you guys if you would like me to react to her live, and we'll see how that goes. But that's how that's gonna go down. Anyway, if you've made it this far, I know this isn't my typical. Let's scroll this up so you can at least see it. I know this isn't the typical format of my videos, but I think we talked about what we needed to talk about as far as what's important going forward. Amber is going over those 2 videos from her Members Live number 6 and her Breaking My Silence, these 2 videos that are on screen right here. It's very clear to me that Amber is very aware of her manipulation. She went into the Breaking My Silence video fully prepared to desperately try to rewrite, desperately trying to get a hold of her storyline again. I think more than one person has said she's spiraling out of control. I don't think she's spiraling out of control, but I do think she's desperately trying to grab hold of the straws to put things back, and it's not going to happen. I think what we're going to see happen from here on out is she's going to, like, just start ignoring things again like she does, and we just won't hear anything else about it. Or if we do, it'll be something snide and just backhanded like she does, and that'll be the end of that. And we'll probably go into a dark spot like she does, so we'll probably be caught up with her back videos soon, and then she'll probably do, and we're probably due for a, month-long absence here in a bit anyway, so just be expecting that to happen. And Also, this all occurred before the weekend, and I tend to take the weekends off anyway, so there's that. Apologies, but I have a life. Sorry. Sorry. And yeah, so there's that. But yeah, if you've made it this far in the video and you've gotten to the end, go ahead and put a little doggy down in the comment section for my neighbors' puppers who are out there learning to run the doggy course. I would go watch, but if I go watch and they see me, it distracts them. So I might go into the living room where they can't see me, and I'll like peek up above my window and watch them do the little course because there's like a bush that kind of hides me from them. Anyway, more information than you really want to know. I'm going to go watch the dogs do cute tricks. That's what you need to know. Anyhow, go ahead and put a little doggy down on the emoticon. I get worse with this every time. Go ahead and put a doggy emoji down in the comment section. I will link the Lukewarm Tea podcast in the description down below. If you get to this video and there isn't a link, please let me know and I will immediately rectify it as soon as I read the comment. And let me know what you guys think. Again, let me know if there's something you want to be particular to cover. Let me know what you guys thought was particularly important. Yeah, if you're part of the members thing or if you somehow saw the members stuff, not gonna judge. Let me know what you guys think is important out of the member stuff, because there's a lot of just blank air, dead air during the members thing. There's a lot of texting during the members things. But yeah. Thank you to everybody who's been supporting the channel. Thank you to my members. Thank you to my subscribers. You guys rock. Thank you to everybody who's going to hit the thumbs up button. Thank you to everybody who's been putting up with me trying to get caught up with Amber. A lot has been happening all at once. And like Alex said, there's 2 different timelines occurring right now, and I'm trying to keep up with both of them, and it's not working. It's just not working. But thank you to everybody who has been putting up with that. And I will see everybody in the next video, which will hopefully be somewhere in the correct timeline. But until then, you know, wibbly wobbly, timey wimey. See you then. Bye. This is my outro music. You can't copyright strike me because it's just me singing. This is my outro music. Thank you for watching. See you next time.